The season has officially begun and we're here at week 1 in Melbourne with possible rain and 5 rookies to start the season. This is F1 Fridays, let's get right into it. Now, to start with, Melbourne is a very difficult track. I do think it is one of the more difficult tracks for a rookie to jump into for their debut, and we do have a lot of rookies. We'll get into FP1 and how that translates, but we also do expect rain. I think they said it was an 80 or 90% chance that some rain would fall on the actual race day. So we do expect that to cause a bit of confusion. I do also expect a lot of the wet weather drivers with the experience to show up. You see Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, a lot of the British drivers are used to driving in the rain, so they tend to do very well. Alonso with his experience, so let's look out for that. It is a very tricky street circuit, and they did add some extra gravel traps in there for this season, so let's see. It already caused a bit of problems in FP1. Getting into FP1, it was a big surprise that our boy Carlos Sainz was in P2. What was more interesting, I think, for me was the fact that he was quite a lot quicker than his teammate Alex Albon. Kind of shows that he got a hang of the Williams and he's continuing his excellent form from last season into this season. I do expect him to have a good race weekend and a good season if Williams kind of gives him the right car. They seem to be going in the right direction, so very, very excited to see Sainz put in some serious performances. Again, it is FP1, so let's see if all the teams actually show their cards. But we head into McLaren. Now, going into preseason testing, they were the favorites. Coming out of preseason testing, they were the favorites, and in FP1, they seem to be the favorites as well. They do seem to show the pace as we thought they had. Lando Norris topping the charts and Oscar Piastri right thereabouts. So let's see going into the race if they could keep that up, but they do seem to be upholding our expectations. Now we move on to Ferrari, the most hyped team at the moment for good reason. And they do show a lot of pace. I do think they have more in the locker. That FP1, I think they kind of held a bit back and give Lewis some time. As I said before, he's going to take a while to get adjusted to the car, to the way the team works. He was even speaking in one of his interviews about the telemetry. So basically the way they analyze the data from Ferrari and give feedback, their processes, obviously very different from Mercedes. He said it was almost the opposite of what he's seen before. So again, Lewis has it in him, but give him some time. I don't expect him to start with guns blazing, so Leclerc looks fast as usual. I do think the Ferraris are looking hot this season. Let's see if they can really challenge the McLarens. We move on to my team, Red Bull. Now, they seem to be struggling a bit on their car setup. We saw them come in FP1 multiple times to make some tweaks. They do look like they have changed the underfloor as well from preseason testing. I don't know if they were just trying out something new or if this is a track specific setup. But both drivers complained about issues and not being very comfortable in the car. Liam Lawson had a bit of a hairy moment as well, but he didn't crash. Verstappen went in hot in one corner as well and kicked out some gravel, but for the most part, I think Red Bull still seems to be figuring it out. Now, don't count out Verstappen, obviously, doing something special, but as it stands, they don't look to be top of the table right now. Now we head into Mercedes. George Russell actually had a very close call with the wall. He stopped, I think, a few inches away from it in a very strange spot, but he does seem to be pushing, which I think is a good thing. Antonelli, again, give him some time, rookie, but they do seem to have some pace. A lot of people kind of dampened expectations on them because they said Bahrain was cool, the weather was suitable to the Mercedes characteristics. I do think if you have to take it, as I said before, with a pinch of salt. We're really not too sure where the Mercedes stands. Would they be challenging up front with Ferrari and McLaren, or would they be more contenders with Red Bull, or even a little bit slower on certain tracks? Again, we have to wait and see. Heading to Ollie, he had a big crash in the Haas for FP1. So it goes to show, as I was saying, that we have to give the rookies a little bit of time. Obviously, we hope they don't cost the teams too much money, and we hope they all stay safe, obviously, but it is a very difficult start to the season. So I think as we get into more traditional tracks, it would give them a little bit more room to push the limits. These, I think it's either high risk for high reward, or they just take it easy. And Behrman is technically the most experienced rookie because he did have races last season. So if he's doing that, who knows for the ones that just jumped in. Now I want to get into F1 Fantasy. It is open. We do have our free league. I will throw the codes up, etc. But I want to get into a bit of the analysis. It is very different this season from others in terms of starting values. It is very difficult to have a team with multiple high value assets. So what that means is you probably have to choose if you're going for high value constructors or high value drivers. I don't think you can have both. You might be able to have one high value constructor and one driver, and the rest of drivers are going to be lower end assets. I am kind of playing around with my build currently. I'm thinking I would do one high-end constructor and one high-end driver and just balance it out from there. But it is very different. You probably gonna end up with one or two rookies on your team, which I think is a bit sketchy for this upcoming weekend, especially the start of the season. So let's be very aware of that. There were some changes to the actual scoring compared to other seasons. We do have DNFs now going into the constructors, and the drivers, I believe, just get 0. So you don't get minus if that driver did DNF. So it changes the dynamic a little bit in terms of how you pick your constructors, and also there were changes to the pit stop points rewards. So each team will get points for their pit stop, but you do have, the quicker the pit stop, the more points you get. So dig into that a little bit. This is obviously the official F1 Fantasy app. That's what my league uses. And basically, I would say play it safe this weekend. That's the strategy I'm going with to start the weekend. I'm just trying not to lose value and see where everyone stands. I'm going for more sure, safe, conservative picks. Now, always wait for FP3 to be completed and lock in your team before qualifying. FP3 tends to give you a better gauge of what we're headed into for qualifying and the weekend in terms of pace and where everyone stands. So that's always my recommendation. Obviously, if you have stuff to do and you can't wait, set your team early and have it locked in. Again, I think too, don't second guess yourself. I think the seasons that I've done great is the ones where I just stuck with what I thought was best and not make any last minute changes. Usually when I make the last minute changes, those are the ones that shit the bed. My main strategy, I'm going up against a few people that definitely gonna be watching this video in our paid league as well as our open league. My strategy is looking for undervalued assets. So not necessarily always picking the ones that I think are gonna do the best, but I look at the value and think about the drivers or the constructors I think that are undervalued and have room to grow. So then when you look at yourself maybe mid-season, you're able to choose more high value assets than the other teams because you've built that. This season is a little bit difficult to do that because of the pricing, but that is usually my strategy. So as I said, it is week 1, very excited to get into it. Our free fantasy league is live. I'll throw the code up somewhere here. The actual link will be in the description below as well. I will have some fun prizes throughout the season. We'll definitely have a big prize for first place. I'll try to do first place, second and third, and maybe do some prizes for like who leads mid-season, etc. We do also have the paid league that is pretty much finalized already. But if anyone is still interested last minute before we get into qualifying, I can add you. We did agree on a 500 TTD buy-in, and the payouts will be third place breaks even, so you get back your buy-in. Second place is double the buy-in, and first place is the remainder of the pot. So please like and subscribe. It is very important to me to get this series out there. Just take that little time, click those buttons. It helps me reach a bigger audience, and I hope to have a very fun season moving forward with you. There's not too much I don't want to really speculate, you know. I want to use more facts and my opinion based on what I've seen, not just guesses. So I did put a lot of weight into FP1, but things could change when we go through FP2 and FP3. So take it again with a little pinch of salt and lock in your teams before qualifying. We are in Australia for this weekend at Oscar Piastri's home race. Thank you. See you next time.